Welcome everyone to the Almost Cancelled TV podcast. I am Peter, and joining me is Connor.
Yes, unfortunately still here.
Yes, reports of this show's demise have been greatly exaggerated. Obviously, we took a couple of weeks off for Christmas, and then Connor decided to go to Iceland.
No, that's not true. Paige decided we were going to Iceland. I had no say in the matter. It was booked without my knowledge.
Okay, fine. Connor was in Iceland.
I woke up one morning and got told I owe her money for a holiday.
there was a week between Christmas and this vacation that we could have theoretically recorded. It didn't happen, and then it meant it didn't happen till now. But don't worry, because at the weekend I compiled 2 full weeks worth of news to do, and then I updated it again today. This is a weird day. This is not the regular weekend time. This is Wednesday night. We're recording this, and that means obviously you won't get one this weekend because there won't be enough news to do by this weekend. So we'll see you again.
Not unless something extreme happens in the next couple of days.
Yeah. So we'll see you for the next one, presumably, weekend after this coming one. So next weekend. But I have lots of news in front of me for us to talk about.
Okay, I'm cracking up on the drinks already.
I mean, I've went back to my old method of copying and pasting the news into a Word doc, just because managing tabs, all right, depending if it's how big or small the news is. I knew this was going to be a big one with all these weeks of built-up news, so
I'll just use like workspaces.
What?
It's on Opera, and I assume other Chrome-based browsers. There's a thing called workspaces where you just like throw all your tabs that you want into a separate thing, and it just like opens them up when you want them.
Oh sure, but my concern is more that my computer froze when I had too many tabs open a couple times.
Right, but what you can do with the workspaces, you can split them, so you could have all.
Is this really important on the show?
It is. You could have all your renewals in one workspace, and then all your whatever one in the next one. Yeah, then you don't have all your tabs open at once. Just optimize your workflow better.
I wish you fell on a volcano. I wish you fell on a volcano.
Yeah. Unfortunately for you, still here.
I was hoping she'd push you out when you asked her to marry you, instead of saying yes.
Didn't happen. Yeah.
But for some reason, she's got like some sort of Stockholm syndrome, and
I told you it didn't happen near a volcano.
In my head, there was lava literally like popping up in the background. It was the end of that shitty Star Wars movie, all the lava going about everywhere. You had the high ground.
Yes, clearly I did. That's why I'm still here.
Anyway, she has no limbs.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never know.
All right, let's get into the news. We're talking about pilots, cancellations, shows, pilot orders, all that stuff. Yeah, all those good things. Yeah. First episode of 2023. It will be a long one. Settle in. Let's start off with renewals and cancellations. Specifically, the renewal list. First up,
so no Netflix in this section, then, yeah.
There might be one. In fact, the first one is Netflix. Technically, it's also an ending, but it's a renewal for a final season, so I think that counts as a renewal rather than a cancellation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so they've renewed Cobra Kai for a 6th and final season. So it's getting its ending.
That didn't start on Netflix either, did it? If I recall.
No, it moved there after.
That was the YouTube one, right?
Yeah, it moved there after 2 seasons, I think, maybe 3 at a push, but something in that range. So it's gotten 3 or 4 seasons at Netflix. That's not. Yeah,
and like 6 in total is nothing to complain about.
Very respectable. Very respectable.
Especially given that when that started and we looked at it, we were like, what? Why?
Well, that's because it was on YouTube Red, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, but I remember that first trailer and it did not look great.
Yeah, but then everyone praised it and said it was.
They did, yeah. Which is still crazy to me. I still can't get over that first trailer in my head, and I've never gone back to try it. But
Yeah. Next up, Outlander has been renewed for an 8th and final season on Starz. But notably, they're also developing a spin-off, a prequel. Yes. So that's coming as well. So they're kind of, it's not quite the Walking Dead thing, because Walking Dead announced like 5 shows, but they're doing the show's ending because we have to kind of eventually let this cast go, but we're going to do a a prequel series.
We're going to do a prequel series that'll be cheaper because the cast don't all want raises.
Yes. I think there's some minor characters I think they said might pop in, but they're obviously much cheaper than the big stars, so
yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's going to be 10 episodes, which is notable just in the sense that season 9, which has not started yet, is like bigger than that. It's like, you know, it's like enough to earn 2 halves kind of thing. So they've kind of went back and forth with the season sizes all throughout the run. I mean, even when we were looking at the early seasons, there was like some different sizes.
You just said season 9.
7. The one that's not the one that's
okay.
Before
I was very confused for a second. Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I was like.
The penultimate season has got more episodes than that. Okay, right.
That's fine. I just wanted to know which time you were wrong.
Right. The 8th season's going to have 10, so that's stars. The prequel series is called Blood of My Blood. It's been greenlit, and that will also consist of a 10 episode first season. So, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, the end of an era, but you're also getting more if you really like Outlander. That's great, and we are going to get back to it for the record. I know it's been a while,
yeah,
but yes, we're just trying to get Star Trek back on track, and then we'll start dipping into Outlander again. We left it at the mid-season break, so it's actually it was a very neat stopping point for a while, but we'll be back to it. So then we have Chucky renewed for season 3 by Sci-Fi.
Oh, fair enough.
So, you know, that's doing relatively well for them. Fan base seems to enjoy it. I've not watched season 2 yet. Unfortunately, it started right before my trip, so when I came back, I had missed like 3 episodes. And
you were like, screw it.
I've not recovered that time jump. So, but season 1 was pretty solid and entertaining. You know, better than I think you would think a Chucky show would be. So, very cool. A lot of these next ones I doubt you'll maybe have even heard of all of them, but you know, I'll just list them off. Billy the Kid has been renewed at MGM Plus for season 2. All American has been renewed for season 6 at the CW, which notably is the first renewal under the new ownership, because everything else has been either cancelled or getting a final season, or which is basically the same thing. But you know, so this is the one rare show so far that they have said, "No, we want more of this."
Yeah, and it's the only one that I can't think off the top of my head what it actually is.
It's a college American football thing, I think.
Okay.
I think. Ghosts has been renewed for season 3 at CBS. This is the Rose McIver comedy.
Yes.
So that's been doing quite well for them. Abbott Elementary's been renewed for season 3 at ABC. I know that got a lot of praise after its first season. CBS have renewed Bob Hart's Abishola for season 5. I remember talking about that when it was in development, and it feels like, wait, how did we get to season 5 already? But here we are.
Yeah, I felt that a minute ago when you talked about Cobra Kai being on, coming up to season 6.
The Neighborhood has been renewed also at CBS for season 6. Freeform have renewed Grownish for season 6. Paramount Plus have renewed SEAL Team for season 7. Now, this used to be a CBS show, and it moved to Paramount Plus for season 6, I think, the last one. So, it's getting a season 7. There was a whole bit of extra intrigue with this one, in that it took a while to renew it because they're trying to decide how to, like, because it used to be on CBS and it used to be like 22 episodes a season, and they were shooting episodes like 10 months out of the year. Like, all the sound stages they used were like worth keeping all year round, but now that they're only shooting 10 episodes a season for Paramount Plus, it's just like this waste of money because they're using up these stages that are just sitting doing nothing for half the year. So apparently there was some like logistics of figuring out how to deal with that and how to, I don't know, make it feasible. It was vaguely interesting just from like the business side of, like, operating a TV.
No, I get it, because obviously what ends up being cheaper, the fact that you've got a studio basically there unusable for X amount of months. Alternatively, you've got to rebuild everything, take everything out of storage, whatever you can. There's got to be a balance somewhere where, where's the tipping point where it's cheaper just to have it unused for X amount of months. Yeah,
no, it was just an interesting little bit. I really thought I'd add it into the, because I definitely don't give a shit about SEAL Team as the show. That's
I have heard some weirdly half decent things about it, given that everything it looks so generic and sounds so generic.
Yeah, do you know who the star is?
No.
Well, it's just a little known actor called David Boreanaz who was on Angel, the television show that was a spin-off to the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I regret not knowing.
First one of 2023, folks. Get it in. Get it in. You look so upset.
Can I quit now?
No. Next up, Criminal Minds Evolution's been renewed for season 2, which I think was also Paramount Plus, although I didn't write that down for some reason. This was the reboot of the original Criminal Minds, so it's kind of like the legacy show with some of the original cast back. And that's been doing well. I think they're halfway through their first season because they went on a break for Christmas time. So I think they're either just about to come back or just came back for the second half of their season.
Pretty normal for that sort of show.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's kind of a mix of both, though, because it's like a 10-12 episode like streaming service show now, but it's also operating.
It is, but I think the audience who are watching that, even on a streaming service, are still pretty used to, Christmas breaks, extended ones at that.
Yeah. So cool. And then the final thing. So we started with Netflix, and we're actually ending with Netflix. Wednesday has been renewed for season 2 at Netflix.
Shocking.
Well, you say that, but this is not like a clear-cut thing. This is actually quite interesting to analyze, because what this tells me is the level of success a show at Netflix needs to have to get a renewal, because some other things that felt relatively successful did not get renewals. This to me says that you have
that was probably their biggest hit of the year.
Well, I know. That's my point.
When I say shocking, I was like, of course that one was going to get renewed. If anything, they've got to renew something.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There was a bit of murkiness because Amazon actually own it now because they own MGM and MGO own Addams Family. So there was a nice little intertwining of things. But no, I do think it's interesting because to me this says you only get a renewal at Netflix now if you're an obscene success. Like, you can't be a moderate success at Netflix anymore and get a renewal. You get cancelled unless you are absolutely meme to shit, where people are sharing gifs of everything because it's the hip new thing.
It's possible, yeah. I did see a thing from, I don't know if it was I don't know exactly who it was at Netflix. It's one of the higher ups this past week, talking about how he claims that they have never cancelled a successful show by their metrics. That every single show they have ever cancelled,
there is so many.
The budget outweighed the gains.
There is so many asterisks to that. Like their metrics are meaningless to the audience.
Oh, I agree.
And we have talked numerous times about how they gauge success is stupid. Because if you changed it to say, like, they've never cancelled like a worthy show or a show deserving of renewals, then it'd be full of shit. And obviously that doesn't necessarily mean success, and sometimes good shows don't find an audience. But there's a bit of a trend with Netflix where everything they make doesn't get advertised and doesn't find an audience, and it's only those few that manage to slip through the cracks into superstardom that are allowed to continue.
That he didn't even say popular shows, because of course they've cancelled popular things. They're just not popular enough to justify their budget, according to Netflix.
I would not trust Netflix with anything now. In fact, on that subject, out of the cancellations list, the first thing here is 1899 was cancelled by Netflix after one season, which got a relative amount of discussion online. The reviews I made, were getting a hefty amount of views compared to everything else. There was clearly some interest in it, but not enough to justify whatever they were spending on it. And it did look fairly expensive. I mean, that is fair to say. Yeah. But they had no interest in renewing it, seemingly, which, again, it's all down to this thing where the way they gauge success is just it's just stupid. Like, that's how many people finished the whole thing in the first weekend. That's no way to do it. Like, we've had this conversation before, so we're not going to get into it. But yeah, so bye-bye to 1899. It wasn't as good as Dark. Like, I'm not too heartbroken about it, but I would have liked to have seen where they went with it, given that the season ended on this huge, cliffhanger that revealed the big thing and whatnot. So, there you go. There we have Doom Patrol and Titans, both ending with their current 4th seasons on HBO Max. They both had their seasons split in half, so they've both aired their first halves of their seasons, and they're both coming back for the second half of season 4 later. What is important to note here is that the creators for both shows apparently could kind of see that they were probably ending, and according to the article on Deadline, the creating team on both actually wrote endings so that they wouldn't be leaving in a.
They were in the process and saw everything going on at HBO Max and went, hang on a second, guys.
Very probably, it would not surprise me if that was the case.
Because as sad as this is for Doom Patrol, I mean, don't get me wrong, 4 seasons isn't terrible for a start. Let's start with that. Obviously, we'd have liked more, but it's not terrible. I don't think this is surprising news at all, given everything that's happened at HBO Max in the last year or so, and these shows in particular, which are like these holdovers from an earlier service.
Yeah, which again begs the question. It feels like HBO Max, taking out HBO proper, what are HBO Max actually renewing and making right now? I don't feel like there's a lot, but I mean maybe it's deceptive. Who knows? But it feels like everything's ending or being cancelled because they want to change the service in some way.
I feel like in regards to the DC side of things, I think there's still like a lot still allegedly in production.
Allegedly,
they haven't officially been cancelled. We've just not heard anything on them in a while. But that, in this age of streaming TV, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gone. Sometimes you do go, a while without hearing too much, and then all of a sudden, here's trailers and here's release dates. Yeah.
Given that it's HBO Max, though, like if I was to say which one's more likely, I'd say it's more likely to just disappear and never get mentioned again.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Then Uncoupled get cancelled by Netflix after 2 seasons. Dead End Paranormal Park cancelled by Netflix after 2 seasons. Inside Job cancelled by Netflix, which is interesting, this one, because this was a reversal. It got renewed for season 2, and they have now changed their minds and cancelled it.
Yep. Oh look, that thing that we were just talking about not so long ago being a recurring trend, and once upon a time was a rare occasion.
Yeah.
Here it is again.
Gossip Girl cancelled by HBO Max after 2 seasons. This was the reboot, of course, of Gossip Girl, because that was a show before.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people talking about it for the first season, when it came back, but then kind of nothing.
Yeah. Mayans MC, the spin-off of Sons of Anarchy, is ending with season 5 on FX. And
that's not too bad.
No, that's not too bad.
Not that I care, I've not watched any of it, but in terms of your amount of show, 5 seasons of that's all right.
And then Fear the Walking Dead is going to end with season 8 on AMC.
Someone put out of its misery.
So that's 8 seasons of that, and there was 11 or 12 of the main show. But this comes with news of the spin-offs. So The Walking Dead Dead City, which is the one that stars Lauren Cohen and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, is coming in June. And then The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, which is that's what they're calling it. Led by Norman Reedus, is going to be coming later on in the year. And then on top of that, the spin-off starring Andrew Lincoln and Danny Guerrera, which is the Rick and Michonne show, is going to hit production later this year to premiere in 2024. So there's 3 shows coming.
That last one, that was at one point a movie, right?
At one point that was a trilogy, but I think now it's like a limited series instead.
Okay, yeah.
So 3 spin-offs coming. They've split up all the cast into their own shows from the original show. I don't know if anyone from Fear the Walking Dead is like leading to their own show. I don't know if it was popular enough to keep on for 8 seasons, but maybe not popular enough to get the spin-off treatment.
I think it's just a lot that I don't think I could name any characters from Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh, nor could I.
And I say that I only watched the first couple of seasons of the main show, but even that aside, even now, I will still occasionally see people on Twitter talk about some of those characters, right? And they'll put a picture or a GIF with names.
It's unfair for me to even have that discussion because I read 100 issues of the comic, and with the exception of Daryl, who was new, like everyone was in the comic. So
sure,
so I already had a lot of the characters kind of pegged from that. No, I can remember them all, but like as soon as someone mentions them from the show, that it triggers a memory, and I'm like, oh yeah, so and so.
Yeah.
So what the second Walking Dead show's ending, but there's 3 more on the way, and there was that other anthology one, Tales of the Walking Dead, which I don't know if that's getting more, if that was like a one and done sort of season, but that also existed. So
It might be one they just bring back when they want to.
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's an anthology after all. They can just kind of roll it out whenever they want. And then sort of last up, kind of in this same sort of category, is Snowpiercer, which is the only remaining original scripted show on TNT. It's not going to be airing on TNT. It's completed 4th and final season. So it got renewed, obviously, and they've made it. So it's done. But it's believed this is part of the tax write-offs for content at Warner Brothers Discovery.
Oh, so they're not even like selling it or shifting it to a service.
Well, Tomorrow Studios, who make the show, are going to shop it around along with a potential prequel and a sequel. So they want to make it more of a franchise and shop it around to someone else. So they can still have someone else air it or put it on a service.
I'm sure someone will pick up the season itself at the very least, because
it's done.
It's done, right? It's easy. It's easy content.
That said, though, if you're shopping it around, I feel like they're going to like consider offers that include taking another show as like they're, you know, they'll probably accept a lowball amount on the season they've already made if they promise to take
commitment to make one of the other shows. Yeah.
So that's what they'll be trying to rank. Obviously, if no one's willing to do it, then they'll just take it to someone who'll take the season. But
I think it's safe to say we'll see the season at some point, at the very least.
Yeah.
It might take a little bit of time to wrangle out some deals back and forth, see what they can get. If no one wants to make any of these other shows, which I feel, honestly, someone will probably take a punt on at least one season. But even if hypothetically no one did, the season will come out somewhere.
Joe, the weird thing with this is that I don't think Warner Bros. Discovery have made a lot of really weird and like shitty choices when it comes to content recently. I will say this one doesn't feel as awful to me, just because they've already moved the entire channel away from showing like dramas and like fictional content. That I kind of get that if they can save some money when it wouldn't fit on what the channel's doing, it would just be this one show on like on their time slot, on their schedule. That is completely, everything else is either sports or reality or.
I think the biggest surprise is they aren't just throwing it on HBO Max or something, making it like an original on there for one season. I guess they think they can get more from the tax write-off.
Yeah,
it's worth.
yeah. But they're also gotten that service of everything, so like.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is the renewals and cancellations. Couple of premiere windows rather than dates here, but notable enough to mention. Ted Lasso season 3 is going to premiere in spring this year, so that's coming soon.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. And also the show with the description that made us laugh harder than any description has ever made us laugh. The Bear, which was correctly very well received, but the description...
Which we did not know at the time.
No. But the description had 4 examples of personal and professional lives in one paragraph. In fact, Connor's downing booze just as I say that, out of memories. So that's been up to 10 episodes for its second season, and it's coming in the summer. It was 8 episodes in season 1, so they got 2 extra for season 2.
No. Fair enough.
So, yeah, that's fair enough. So just some general stuff here. First up, this is pretty cool as far as success stories go. The Last of Us, its second episode aired this past weekend. It went up in viewership for its second week by 22%, which is the largest jump from a first to second episode that HBO has ever had. It got 5.7 million viewers on Sunday night, and the premiere was already pretty good. It was aside from the premiere of House of the Dragon, it was the biggest premiere number they'd done since Boardwalk Empire, which was 15 plus years ago. So it's went up from week 1, and apparently the first episode now with HBO Max and whatever is up to 18 million viewers for that first episode. So needless to say, it's reaching the casual non-game playing crowd, I think, with those numbers.
I know quite a few people in my workplace have watched it. Even people who, so some of people are gamers who are already familiar. Not all of them though. Some of them just the casuals, like you say. Yeah.
And I don't say that with any malice. I'm not making fun of casuals. I just mean people who have not played the game and don't really necessarily know what it is. They just watched it because it's an HBO show, and seemingly enough people heard enough good things to come back and watch episode 2. So That's good. And I think, to compare it to Walking Dead for a second, which was also a big hit and was also, I mean, Last of Us isn't exactly zombies, but it's very zombie-like and what it's doing.
It's zombies. It's zombies in a different form, but it's functionally zombies.
It's zombies. It's zombie adjacent, but it's I think the comparison that I would make here is that Walking Dead quickly ran into this problem of like stretching out material and like spinning their wheels, whereas so far through 2 episodes, it's very very clear that there's no concern about that in season 1 certainly, because it's adapting the first game and it's going at a nice reasonable pace. So at no point in episodes 1 or 2 did I feel like, oh, they're stretching this out to get an episode out of something that was like a minute in the game, So
yeah, obviously they've added in a few little things here or there, but pretty faithful from what I remember. It's been a few years since I played it, but pretty faithful.
All little smart additions, I would say. So I've been enjoying that. I've obviously been reviewing it. Then I was full of praise, particularly for episode 2. I was very lavish.
I watched them. I very much appreciate the sound design of the clickers.
Oh, of course, yes.
I think that's one of the. Obviously, they were very good in the game as well, but I think it was used very effectively.
It wouldn't surprise me if some of the same people were doing the sound effects.
Very possible.
Because I know the performance capture artists who did the clickers for the game are also the ones actually doing the clickers in the show.
Why wouldn't you, right? It's right there.
Yeah, so that's really good. That's the first big hit of the year, really, TV-wise. So, yeah. It's good to see. Next up, an update on a show, which I am very curious about for, because I care about it.
I suspect. Oh, okay. No, maybe I don't know what this one is.
No, this is the Alien series. This is Noah Hawley's Alien series. It's going to finally begin shooting this year. Noah Hawley's working on season 5 of Fargo right now, which is an active production, but he's in pre-production for Alien. Scripts have been written. This was from FX boss John Landgraf at the TCAs. So they're meeting with production designers and stuff like that just now. So it's starting to kind of gear up to be shooting later this year. And the only thing we really know about the story so far is that it takes place before Ripley. It's set on Earth, and it's the first story that takes place in the Alien franchise on Earth, which, not counting the AVP movies, is true.
Well, that's just rewriting history to suit your own agenda.
Yes, but most fans would like to forget those movies anyway, so it's just not something we're going to fight too hard. I mean, I'm curious to see, Predator got a shockingly good movie this past year, and it'd be nice for Alien to get some love, and you'll get a good show. I know they're doing a movie for Hulu as well, which is separate from this show, which is fine. You can have 2 different Alien things at the same time. I mean, just set them at 100 years apart. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
So hopefully it's good. All right, next up we have a update on Gen V. So this is the spin-off, the college spin-off to The Boys. It's launching this year. It's early for a real decision, but apparently the scuttlebutt, according to Deadline, is that Amazon are very happy with the first season, and a writing room is already starting for season 2 because they're assuming they're going to get picked up for it. So they're already starting to develop scripts for it.
That's on trend with what they've been with, The Boys, the main show. They've always had early renewals.
Yeah.
I think season 2 was picked up before the first episode even aired.
Yeah, and one of the 2 co-showrunners of season 1 is going to be the sole showrunner of season 2.
Okay, and that's not a concern.
No, and especially since it added on here that the person leaving was just they need time with it's like personal family stuff. They just need to go and be with their family. So it wasn't like, oh, there's a fight on set, like they hate each other. And
yeah, honestly, when it's co-showrunners going down to 1, I take more often than I assume either it's like say personal reasons like that, or one of them just they've got another job that they can go and move on to. And hey, this is in capable hands now. You got this on your own. I'm going to go start something else.
So no, I just thought that was first of all, it's a good sign for the show because obviously it's not out yet, and we hope it's good. But also, it's just sort of kind of a potential season 2 pickup already is good to know about. A bunch of casting for the Frasier reboot came out over the past couple of weeks. So first up, there's a few names that I'll get through as I'm going through this. So first up, Jack Cutmore Scott has been cast to star Frasier's son, Freddie, who I think in the original show was always referred to as Frederick, but he's older now. He prefers Freddie, I guess. So he is going to be in it, as well as Nicholas Lyndhurst, which means nothing to the US audience, but to the UK audience, it's like, wait, what? Rodney?
Yeah.
Rodney's going to be in Frasier? Yeah, apparently Grammer was doing like a play with him or something like some years ago, and apparently loved him. It was like, I need to work with him more. He needs to be in Frasier.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's going to be Frasier's like friend, which he's going to be some sort of professor or something. And the idea is that Frasier had Niles in the original show, but he's never really just had like a best guy friend, and that's kind of what they're trying to do with Lyndhurst. This is like the opposite of Rodney, and because Ron, I mean, he's not a complete idiot. Like he's not as far as like Only Fools and Horses go, which is the show he's
on the
for.
gullible side. Yeah.
He's a gullible sod, but he's probably technically slightly smarter than most of the other characters on that show.
It's a low bar on that show, but
yeah.
Yes, probably true.
But from that to like Professor, who's like sparring verbally with Frasier Crane, that's a pretty big difference. So yeah, we've got that. We also have Anders Keith has been cast. He's like a new actor who's been cast as Nails and Daphne's son, David. And then we also have Jess Salguero, who actually was in Why the Last Man, but you will also know her as the girlfriend from the first episode of The Boys.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't last very long.
At first, I was like, you were like, the girlfriend. I'm like, oh god, okay, this is starting to sound like an obscure reference, but no, okay, no, actually,
it was a memorable character for one episode. So Nails and Daphne's son is an awkward college freshman with a penchant for off-kilter observations. Frasier's nephew David has Niles' intelligence, Daphne's smile, and neither of their polish. David's unearned confidence may confuse some, but Frasier has a fondness for his nephew's earnest enthusiasm. Kind of sounds like they're going for a young Niles with this character from that description. And then Salguero will play Eve, a spontaneous, outgoing, and bursting with creative energy, whether it's asked for or not. It's Freddie's roommate. Eve is a breath of fresh air. Just roommate. I thought it said college roommate at first, and I was like, wait, wouldn't he be older than that now? Because he was already like 10 when, by the time the show finished in 2003, he was already like 10, so like he would be in his 30s now.
Yeah, it'd be about 30-ish.
Yeah, about 30-ish, yeah. Not that you can't be in college at 30, but it's just,
less common.
So, yeah, with an innate ability to connect with both Frasier and Freddie, Eve is a critical bridge between father and son as they attempt to reconcile. So, I guess it's interesting they might be doing a thing. You know how like Frasier and Niles were trying to reconcile with Martin, their dad, in the original show? Maybe they're sort of going to flip it so Frasier's the dad now, and like he has to try and mend the relationship with his son.
Maybe.
There's something to that, but yeah. So there's a bunch of casting for the show. So they're going to have Niles and Daphne's son, but neither of his parents are going to be on the show, as far as we know. Anyway, I know Niles is flat out refused. I don't know if the actress who plays Daphne said like definitely not, or if that's just kind of like an up in the air assumed thing.
Yeah, maybe it's something that they'll want to hold on to though, if they do get it.
So that's that. And then next up, I actually thought I was going to have to dodge talking about this asshole because it kind of happened early in the month, but there was kind of a new bit of news to it in the last couple of days that unfortunately means I have to bring it up. So Justin Roiland, the co-creator, executive producer, writer, and also the voice actor of Rick and Morty, amongst other shows. This was known sort of legally for a while, but became public at the start of the year that he has been in the process of being like on trial or whatever for a felony domestic assault, which sounds very serious for a start. And the new news to this is that Adult Swim and later Hulu said the same thing because he's got a show on Hulu as well. They're both cutting ties with him. Adult Swim are saying we're keeping Rick and Morty. We're going to recast these roles. I did read
all of them.
Yeah, I did read somewhere though that ever since season 3 of Rick and Morty, he's mostly just been doing the voice roles like on his own from a distance. And part of the reason for that is maybe because internally it was known that he kind of couldn't be around like everyone else, so he was kept at a distance and just told to do the voices.
It's going to be a very different show because obviously he is a lot of the voices, including Rick and Morty, and then a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but this is a weird show in that they renewed it up until season 10 after like season 3. Like they ordered like 7 seasons of the damn thing, and they've still got 4 left to do with that deal. So they're choosing to keep it and to recast the roles. I suppose the good thing with the types of voices on that show is that you probably can get people who can just do impressions, and it'll just work. I think Dan Harmon, who is the co-creator, like he apparently does good versions of the voices. I don't think he'll do it necessarily, but he's apparently good at doing his own versions of them. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, it sounds like a complete piece of shit. Like I saw when this news all broke, I saw like people who'd worked with them like sharing some of the private messages that he'd sent them, and like, if nothing else, his sense of humor left a lot to be desired. There was a lot of like really weird sexual and racial stuff, and like a lot of his private jokes that it painted a picture of someone, and then on top of these charges that have been put against him, like it feels like his career's like probably done, and
I would think so. Yes,
and for the best, might I add. So yeah, well, we'll move on from that, but it felt worth mentioning. So on to the new comedies in development. What page would be on here? This news. We're at the bottom of page 5. Okay.
Of how many? Of how many?
I'll give you an update when we get to the end of this section.
No,
so, comedies. Multi-camera comedy ABC called Forgive and Forget. The Punky Brewster duo of Eugene Garcia Cross and Robin Shaw are teaming up with Modern Family star Ty Burrell for the show. It's a family comedy about Alzheimer's, which doesn't sound like a funny thing necessarily, but we've seen other examples of comedies taking tough subjects and making them work, being informative, but also still being very funny. It follows Ben Flemings, who, when his life of the party father is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, is forced to take in the one man he's worked his whole life not to become. So there is actually a very tropey part of that, which is a parent moving in with their kid. That's a very typical sitcom setup.
I feel like it's definitely pretty fair for that to be a drinking role in the dramas, but I think that's so common in like, especially in family sitcoms.
I don't think we made that a rule anyway. I don't think so.
No, I don't know if we did or not. I think we spoke about it. I
think
the multi-generational.
The multi-generational was definitely the one I was pushing for. That was more of a,
we need a list. We need a codified list.
I think the phrase blended family as well, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If that pops up. All right. Speaking of ABC, we're sticking with them. They've handed a pilot order to a single camera comedy called Public Defenders from writer Eddie Quintana and McGee. It comes from 20th Television. Follows, like, every time I see 20th Television, I want to just add in, Century Fox. Like, it's just like it's still in my brain.
It just feels wrong.
Yeah. It follows 4 inexperienced public defenders up to their ear holes in student loan debt who work tirelessly to keep their clients out of jail. Along the way, they have to rely on each other to navigate their first defendants, the absurd court system, and the copy machine that always jams. It never got personal.
No, it was all professional. I was waiting for it. It was suspiciously sounding like it was going to.
I mean, you could make a small argument for the student loan debt early on, but that was sort of separate at the start. So
you could, but also that is a professional thing that they took it on to further their professional career.
It's blurring the line a little bit.
It is. And yeah, I don't think it hit the format.
No, I agree. I'm just, I'm playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
Which, feels on point for a show about public defenders and the court system.
Oh yeah.
All right, next up, sticking with ABC. They're ordering comedies left and right here, apparently. So this is a show called Boss, and it comes from How to Live with Your Parents creator Claudia Leno. This is at ABC again, like I said. It's a single-camera workplace comedy. Written and executive produced by Leno and inspired by Leno's real-life experiences, Boss is a multi-generational adult ensemble office comedy about two women, frenemies... I'll say that again. That's right, I'll say that again because I felt weird saying it. Frenemies and competitors with little in common who end up hiring each other's equally opposite daughters as their assistants. So that's the gimmick, is two women who hate each other hire each other's daughters as their assistants. That's the premise. Without all the fluffy language.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a premise for a sitcom.
Did we not just say multi-generational was
Oh, yes, we did. Yeah. What should we go with?
I don't know.
I know. I'm thinking...
Drain cleaner.
I'll get something half decent for the first one of the year.
Okay.
I might not could do the whole show on it, but I'll get the first one.
Yeah, we'll see how many come in, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll go with the limited release Highland Park that I do not have much left of.
Very fancy.
It is. It's very nice as well.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, well, we're out of Fox comedies. Fox is developing El Patio, a multi-camera comedy from writer Danny Fernandez from iCarly, Rosalind Sanchez and Eric Winters, 2 for the Road Entertainment, Aaron Kaplan's Capital Entertainment, and Fox Entertainment.
I'm not drinking for that.
No, but first Aaron Kaplan.
That would kill me. Yeah.
First Aaron Kaplan of the year, everyone. Round of applause. So El Patio follows a group of mostly Latin neighbors of all ages, races, and walks of life, who welcome a new neighbor, Gabriel Suarez, into the small Miami apartment building. Gabriel, a Mexican-American from Texas, always knew that life in Miami would be different, but he never expected that his neighbor's cultural differences would be an almost constant source of conflict and comedy.
Ooh. Saucy.
There you go. Oh, that sounds fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
Also from Fox, they're developing a single camera comedy called Get Buckets from executive producers and writers Stephen Falk, Alan Maldonado, Daryl Brett Gibson, and Brandon Michael Smith. And all of them except the first one, Falk, are also actors who'll be in it as well. So Get Buckets follows 3 estranged brothers who must band together following their billionaire father's untimely death to figure out how to run the professional basketball team he left behind and how to be a family. Do you know what I loved about that? Is I was thinking, this already counts as both because it leads into like the profession, but then they just cinched at the end with also and to be a family.
They did. They threw in the actual phrasing of it on top of the spirit.
Yes, just to make sure it counted. Thank you, Fox.
All right, let's get with that one. I'm not gonna lie, I still show something like interesting and not just the usual boring swill because it's the first show of the year.
Of course,
yeah.
yes.
We'll go with the 8-year-old.
Maybe you got a couple new bottles at Christmas.
I didn't get any full bottle. I got a few interesting miniatures of some, like nicer ones, but they're quite expensive. So they just got me the little small bottles, which I still appreciate because they're nice.
All right. Next up, still with the comedies here. We're talking about a show called Second Wife. So, so Megan Oppenheimer, who's just had a show be a hit called Tell Me Lies. She's working with executive producer Emma Roberts, and they're teaming at Hulu and 20th Century TV for Second Wife. Roberts and Lucifer alum Tom Ellis will star and executive produce in the darkly comedic half-hour show. Okay. Second Wife is a romantic dramedy about the... Honestly, if it hadn't told me it was half-hour, I'd probably put this in the dramas, because I usually put dramedies there, because they tend to be still hour-longs, but it's specified half-hour, so... Put it here. So yeah, so romantic dramedy about the ups and downs of a blended family. Fresh off a terrible breakup, Sasha, played by Roberts, flees her life in New York to start over in London, where she meets and quickly falls in love with a recently divorced father named Jacob, played by Alice. When they impulsively decide to get married, they will soon learn that there's a lot they don't know about each other, and they can't outrun their past forever. Darkly comedic in tone, Second Wife is an exploration of intimacy, failure, and second chances.
Okay. One, I'm really glad I'm not working tomorrow because this is shaping up to give me a lot to drink.
We're
for.
not even at the dramas yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm starting to get concerned. Two, I like Ellis quite a lot. I think he's a very charismatic actor.
Which one's that? Who's that? Is that the lead guy from?
Yeah.
Okay. I like Emma Roberts.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's names attached to this.
Honestly,
that make it...
I'll be honest. The fact that what makes it interesting remotely to me is that it actually describes it as darkly comedic. If it didn't have that word darkly in front of comedic, I wouldn't get anything out of this that would seem interesting. But the fact that it's saying darkly comedic makes me go, oh, what sort of weird secrets have they each got that are going to cause for comedy?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But hey, that wraps up the comedies. We can get into the dramas.
I want a page update.
We are in the middle of page 8.
Okay. I feel like there's more dramas than there was comedies because that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, there's more dramas for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, let's do a guess actually. Do you think we're after the halfway point of all the news, or do you think we're before the halfway point of all the news?
I'm gonna say slightly after. Wait, you say halfway through page 8?
Halfway through page 8.
Okay, well, technically slightly under half then. Because the only reason I'm going to say that is because I thought you were going to ask me how many new shows there are in dramas to guess that, and I was going to, I was going to throw out 16 as a random number, so I'm going to go with 16 pages instead. So,
well, it's 17 pages, so we're before halfway.
I mean, I still said before because halfway through 8, but that was less than half.
Okay,
it was not at the end of 8 yet.
All right. First up, Paramount Plus has given an 8-episode straight-to-series order to an adaptation of Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons fantasy role-playing game franchise. Red Notice filmmaker Ross and Marshall Thurber, well, that's not an exciting name, wrote a pilot script and is set to direct the first episode of the series, which will be a co-production between E1 and Paramount Pictures. No description here, but that's probably because Dungeons and Dragons doesn't have a plot that's like standard.
Are they doing a movie on this?
They are.
Soon?
I saw the trailer when I went to see like Avatar and Violent Night. It's a Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, I want to say it's called. And
sounds vaguely familiar.
It's like a really, do you know what, honestly, it looks like a movie that was made in 2007. It looks like
sold.
It looks like a light, forgettable blockbuster that no one will remember that was made in the mid 2000s. That's what it looked like from the trailer.
See, that sounds really bad when you say it like that. But like, those could be really fun movies to just throw on late at night.
I was getting. I don't know how I compare it to.
Problem is they're too forgettable that you don't know what they are now.
I don't know, like R.I.P.D. like,
well, Jesus, that's harsh. You went right for the bottom
with fantasy elements, or maybe a better thing would be like Golden Compass, but with like modern Marvel humor.
I was gonna say something a bit more recent, but I think falls into similar lines would be like Bright on Netflix.
Maybe.
But it's not really a good movie.
No.
But like, kind of forgettable. Like, yeah, I'll throw it on one night.
Poor Chris Pine. He never became that star that he felt like he could be. He's just doing all these weird like lesser movies. I don't know. Anyway, Dungeons and Dragons. So it could be good. It could be bad. Like honestly, it could be anything because it's Dungeons and Dragons. The whole point of Dungeons and Dragons is that you make up your story when you play it. So
what I'm expecting now is a trashy fantasy show, which means I'm in.
Basically, Paramount Plus want their Game of Thrones, and they're hoping this will be it.
Yeah.
Amazon got Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time. Paramount Plus are trying Dungeons and Dragons.
Hey, it's a recognizable brand, at least.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, next up. So they're developing, with Sony, that is, are developing a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon show. So It's a series adaptation of that and the other 4 novels in the Wang Dulu Crane Iron Pentology, which were published between 1938 and 1944, which chronicles the struggles of 4 generations of Yorkshire? I don't know how to pronounce that word.
I don't know how it's written, so I can't.
Youxia. I'm assuming there's a sound here that I just can't predict.
Yusha, I think.
Yusha, okay. A type of ancient Chinese warrior folk hero. Obviously, it's been a movie before. This is coming from writer-producer Jason Ning, who is expanding his relationship with Sony. He's got an overall deal there. So, not a lot of details on this yet, but it's a big, people remember the movie. It's, it comes from the...
It'll be a martial arts show, obviously, but with a name that people recognize.
Yeah. So... He's currently working with Sony and making a show for MGM Plus and Amazon Prime separately. So it could end up in either of these, but, I
can see it being kind of any of those places. It's it's not specific enough that you see it on any particular service, I don't think.
Next up, Warner Brothers is developing a limited series about Buster Keaton. No title yet, so Buster Keaton, I guess, is the best you've got for it just now. Mm-hmm. The notable thing, though, is that Rami Malek is going to be playing the vaudeville turned silent comedy movie star. So this is going to be like an acting vehicle for him to go nuts, basically.
And he is incredible, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Matt Reeves' 6 in Idaho Productions are working on it along with Malek and David Weddle, who are producing, and Matt Reeves is possibly going to direct this limited series, which is also good news because he's a good director.
He is, yeah.
So it's been shopped around to streamers and networks, and it is worth mentioning that 6 in Idaho are under an overall deal at Warner Brothers. So, yeah. And this is obviously Reeves is developing like a couple of Batman shows with Warner's right now as well.
He's got a relationship, yeah.
Yeah, so... HBO Max aren't really taking shows right now, but I suspect that they'll happily shop it to somewhere else.
I could see this on HBO proper.
Yeah, so could I. 6 episodes or whatever. Yeah.
Little limited series. HBO love those.
Yeah, probably get some acting Emmys out of it.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea. Next up, so we're looking at a show called The Sympathizer, which comes from directors Mark Munden from Utopia and Fernando Mireles from The Two Popes. This is a drama adaptation of Viet Thanh Nguyen's Pulitzer Prize winning novel, produced and co-starring Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, it's a big name. Okay. Yeah, it's a HBO and A24 series, and they've also added some cast members in Dai Nguyen, Kaylee Tran, and Vivi Nguyen. Or Vai Nguyen. I thought it's VY. I don't know how to pronounce that. I give it my best shot. Apologies if I butchered it. The Sympathizer is an espionage thriller and cross-culture satire about the struggles of a half-French, half-Vietnamese communist spy during the final days of the Vietnam War and his resulting exile in the United States. Described as a blistering exploration of identity in America, a gripping spy novel and powerful story of love and friendship. The novel is hailed as a new classic of war fiction, has been compared to the works of Kafka, Orwell, and Le Carré. Le Carré? I don't know how I say that.
Le Carré, yeah, he's the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy guy.
Ah.
And a lot of other things, obviously, that have also had adaptations.
But that movie put me to sleep, so I'm going to judge him right now and say he's probably terrible.
One of the most renowned spy writers of all time.
Maybe it's just the most
up there with like Fleming for Bond as most well-known spy writers.
Oh, that's shit too. Maybe I only like alternative spy stuff. Like your mainstream spy stuff bores the shit out of me. I'm sorry.
You're a spy hipster, is what I'm getting from this.
I just don't care about the details of being a spy. Like they obsess over the details.
Yeah.
They love it.
Fleming obsessed over the details in Bond.
He did.
Not sure that's really true.
Details and extreme sexism. That was the mantra.
Accuracy is not the same as details. I want to point that out.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, you've got Downey Jr. You've got A24 with HBO. There's a lot of things to go along with that.
I think he's a director of Two Popes. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, two directors. The one from Two Popes and the one from Utopia are both going to be working on.
Yeah, I can't speak for the Utopia one so much, but Two Popes was a great movie that was very, very well directed.
All right, next up, Netflix is doing another young adult series.
One of them's got to stick eventually.
It's called Geek Girl, and it's based on a British book about a gawky teenager who is plucked from obscurity to embark on a modelling career. They're going to adapt Holly Smale, or maybe Smalley, maybe it'll be pronounced. It's Smale. I mean, I would assume Smale, but it's a sort of like fancy looking name that I'm like, that might be
Yeah, I would have said Smale as well, though.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's a series of novels, and they're doing a 10-part series on it, with the Canadian and British co-production set to begin filming later this year. This is the description. Geek Girl tells the story of an awkward, neurodiverse teenage... Neurodiverse? I've never heard that before. Neurodiverse? What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, you typically see the word neurodivergent more than neurodiverse.
Okay.
It just means you're on the spectrum, usually.
Okay.
Some capacity.
Okay. I mean, that makes some sense, you know. It may end up in my first guess, but it makes enough sense. All right, so yeah, an awkward neurodiverse teenager, Harriet Manners, whose life is turned upside down when she is spotted to be a model and embarks on a life-affirming journey of self-discovery as she balances high school and high fashion.
You bitch.
Do you know what's so funny is that we often say, does school count as professional for kid characters? But then it said high fashion, and I went, no, high school is the personal part. High fashion is the profession.
Yeah. Bastards.
Yeah, take a swig, you filthy ginger.
I'm glad I switched to the lower proof one. And by lower proof, I still mean 40%, but as opposed to the 50% one I was on before.
All right. Next up, HBO Max, the BBC, and A24 have won the rights to co-develop one of the most anticipated British debuts of the coming year. It's called The List. And it comes from the writer of
You must be excited.
It comes from the writer of Slaying Your Rain, Yomi Adegoke. So it's a highly competitive situation. Apparently, there's been bidding for it between all the UK drama production houses. A24's Piers Wenger and Rose Garnett won out for A24. So, yes. It's due to be published in July. The List follows Ola Olajide, a high-profile journalist at... So it's basically the word woman, but instead of an A, it's like 3 X's. So I think I just better say woman, but it's written with 3 X's.
Probably.
Yeah. So it's a fancy magazine, right? She's a journalist at a magazine. And she's about to marry the love of her life, Michael. The couple seem to have it all, but one morning they wake up to the same message. Oh my God, have you seen The List? I love that I have no idea what the actual plot of this show is. Because clearly all of it's going to come from whatever this question means. But what is The List? Is it a list of like all the bad things everyone's done? Or is it a list of like all the people who are going to die soon? Or is, like, what is, like, is it supernatural? Is it a normal thing that could be in a list? I don't know.
I don't know, but they've got you. You want to know what the list is?
I mean, enough to read like another synopsis someday. At
Maybe
least
watch a trailer that'll tell you. Yeah.
But that description does not tell me like what the bulk of it's going to really focus on, other than just there's some list.
I was gonna say I'll Google it, but
is it a list? Book. Is it a list of names? Well, the book's not even out yet, so I mean, it might not even be.
No, but there'll be a.
Is it a list of names? Is it a list of things?
Oh yeah. I think there's a different book called The List. That's what's showing up for me first on Goodreads. Which is not helpful.
No.
Never mind.
It's fine. I mean, for the wrestling fans out there, I thought this might be a show about Chris Jericho, but that was not to be the case. Connor won't get that great cutting edge reference, but
Straight out of my head.
some of you will, and that's what's important. Fremantle is developing a drama series in the world of competitive mariachi bands.
I'm in.
There's no title yet, but
I don't need any more information. I'm in.
yeah, it comes as Going Varsity in Mariachi, a documentary directed by Sam Osborne and Alejandra Vasquez, stars a talented group of students from. This feels blasphemous.
This is like the second time you've seriously paused before saying a word.
Well,
funny.
see, I know how to say this, but it feels blasphemous because this is how like Americans say Edinburgh wrong. So I don't want to say it.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Edinburgh.
What?
Edinburgh North High School is what but I feel dirty saying it because this is the way foreigners say Edinburgh wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the students at Edinburgh North High School in South Texas who compete for the title of the state's best mariachi band is hitting the Sundance Film Festival. So there's this documentary out, and it's kind of like, you know, the same subject is kind of like coming
inspired this. Yeah.
So it's based on the drama series is based on Cecilia Bali's reporting in the New York Times article, A Championship Season in Mariachi Country. The series will explore the complex world of the mariachi community. The series showcases the bonds that exist among Latino youth as they prepare and compete in this epic and resonant competition. This is like, I mean, I've never heard of a competition for mariachi bands, but yeah, it makes sense they do exist. So there's a niche here that's not been filled by any other movie or show.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that it exists. I mean, I personally took part in competitions for steel band.
Sure.
But so I mean, like, of course, something on that scale has competitions, especially in America, right?
Yeah, I just wonder, like, did they like? Was it meant to be Edinburgh North High School, but they simplified it? And
You mean like the same way they can't say aluminium, and they just like screwed that up, permanently changed it, and that's what happened here?
Yes, we love our American audience, for the record.
Yeah,
it's just easy to poke fun. Easy to poke fun.
It's very easy.
Don't worry, I make fun of Connor for being ginger more than I do you for being American, so don't.
That is actually just factually true.
Yeah, don't feel too bad.
And to be fair, as an Englishman, I make fun of the Scottish and Welsh just as much as I do the Americans. So
I'll even think about the Welsh.
Well, clearly you're not making enough jokes about them.
All right, next up. Those About to Die is the name of a period drama coming from Roland Emmerich on Peacock.
Sorry. Period drama, Roland Emmerich. Are you sure that you've got the right story here? You've not mixed two up.
No, he did that Shakespeare movie in between all the disaster movies, so technically he's dipped his toes.
Yeah,
in here
sure.
Before. Anthony Hopkins is stepping in.
What? Sorry, what? You said this was Peacock as well, just to throw that into the mix.
Yes. It's like a random word generator. Like
this feels like an AI story. Did Chatbot make this?
The series, which is inspired by Daniel Mannix's eponymous non-fiction book, is a large-scale drama set within the spectacular, complex, and corrupt world of gladiatorial sports in ancient Rome.
Oh, I love every part of this description.
It introduces an ensemble of diverse characters across the many layers of Roman society where sports, politics, and business intersect and collide. Hopkins, Vespasian, the Emperor of Rome and head of the Flavian bloodline, is a battle-tested, a rural upstart who claimed his throne after victory in a bloody 10-year civil war. He is aging and despised by the patricians, jockeying for position in the empire and looking to supplant his heirs to the throne of the first chance they get.
I'm actually quite familiar with this general period of history.
Oh, sure. I mean, I saw Gladiator. That was enough for me. I don't need that anymore.
I'm very interested. Also, 2, Anthony Hopkins, yes, he's fantastic. He's going to be great. 3, okay, not that it makes so much more sense, but if there's going to be a period drama from Roland Emmerich, I think gladiatorial Rome is kind of the best fit you're going to get.
No, Pompeii, surely.
Okay, second best fit you're gonna get. How did he not do a Pompeii movie yet?
I don't know how, but somehow there's going to be a scene in this where they're running as the ground's falling from behind them, even though there's no reason for that to be happening. In
Somehow the
Gladiatorial
Colosseum's collapsing. Yeah.
That's so funny. All right, so yes, that's Those About to Die.
Good title as well, to be fair.
Next up, Hulu is developing The Midcoast, a drama series based on Adam White's best-selling novel from Escape at Danorama's co-creator Brett Johnson, which got a lot of buzz, and I was told repeatedly that we should have looked at it when it was airing, and we just kind of missed it. But written by Johnson, based on White's novel, The Midcoast is an hour-long drama set on the scenic coast of Maine, exploring the rise and fall of Ed Thatch, a lobster fisherman turned blue-collar criminal with an unstable devotion to his wife.
So
Honestly,
it's definitely not a sequel to The Lighthouse by Stephen King.
If they just stopped after a lobster fisherman, I'd have been in. Like,
yeah,
lobster fish.
Yeah,
it's easy to make Stephen King jokes because it's set in Maine.
Yes, and lobster, and lighthouse jokes because lobster.
Oh, you're fond of my lobster.
Yeah, obviously.
You're fond of my lobster. So that's The Midcoast. Next up, competitive apparently, for The Hush, which is a story and film from producer Clark Peterson. Is optioned Sarah Foster's thriller novel The Hush to develop as a TV show. Set in a near-future surveillance state London, The Hush follows a group of women who join forces with a midwife to save her daughter, who is the latest in a string of pregnant teens that have mysteriously disappeared. In the 6 months since the first case of a terrifying new epidemic, the government has passed sweeping new laws to monitor all citizens, and young pregnant women are vanishing without a trace.
I could believe that from our current government. Sad but true. If I believe they were competent enough to manage it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know,
it's a show that's a very dry description to that show, but I feel like there's potential if it's well directed.
I've not even bothered learning our Prime Minister's name yet, because I just assumed it wouldn't last that long. It's been longer than the last one, though, so I should probably...
It is. It's Rishi Sunak, for the record.
Sunak! That's... sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. He's shit, like the rest of them.
Yeah. And the reason why I thought of that is because I was about to make a Boris joke, and I went, oh, he's not Prime Minister anymore. It's not the women either. Who is it? We're past trusts. Who is it?
He's the one who got caught on camera this week not wearing a seatbelt. and when I say caught on camera, I mean his own press team published a video of him doing an interview in the back of his car not wearing a seatbelt. And then he got fined by the police because he didn't wear a seatbelt. Yes.
He truly
that happened this week.
He truly thinks no rules apply to him.
Yeah.
Even the
like
ones
all
that
Tories.
are for his own safety. All right. Anyway, next up, AMC is acquired the rights to John Maxim's popular Bannerman spy book series for development as a potential TV show. So that's Bannerman is the name of the series.
A spy's in again right now.
Yeah. So that may not end up in the name of the show, but that's the sort of the collective name for the...
It's a potential name, though, that works.
I think they could call it that. Yeah. It comes from Shane Black, obviously from, multiple good movies. Also The Predator, but multiple good movies.
That was not one of them.
Greg Nicotero, who's like an effects guy who's worked on... Obviously did a lot of Walking Dead stuff, but he did a lot of horror movies before that.
Yeah.
So this is AMC, like I said. And it's also with Brian Whitten from Creepshow and Friday the 13th. Oh, they don't specify what Friday the 13th, so I'll assume the 2009 one, but I mean, even that's a long time ago now, so I don't know what they're getting at. The book series consists of 5 titles: The Bannerman's Solution, The Bannerman Effect, Bannerman's Law, Bannerman's Promise, and Bannerman's Ghosts.
I can't see them liking any of those enough to pick as a title for the show beyond just Bannerman.
Yeah, I can see Bannerman Effect. The Bannerman Effect. I can see that being a title of a show.
Maybe
that one. The Bannerman Solution synopsis. So this is just a synopsis for the first book, but it's a good synopsis for, anything.
It's a reasonable assumption that that's probably where they're going to start the show.
Paul Bannerman was once his nation's deadliest weapon, a top covert operative heading up the most lethal group of contract agents and network specialists in all of Europe. Now Bannerman is a liability, an unpredictable loose cannon that could irreparably damage America's shaky intelligence structure if he chose to. This is sounding a lot like a Neil Breen character. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. So the decision has come down from the top. Bannerman and his people must be eliminated. Suddenly, death is running in Westport, Connecticut, one in a nationwide network of secret halfway towns where the country's most dangerous former agents have been, quote-unquote, retired. At war with powerful elements within his own government, a war not of his making, Bannerman has been lured here to this place of yard sales, minivans, commuter trains, and murder. The plan is for Bannerman and those he ran to die here quietly, but Bannerman has other plans. I kind of followed that.
I did. This sounds like trashy fun. Not good. I want to specify that very seriously. Not good. But I feel like I could have fun with it in the same way that I ended up, I don't know if I told you this, I ended up having a lot of fun watching Reacher.
Oh sure, I saw the first episode of that.
I don't think it was a good show. I don't think it's like bad. I don't think it's like really terribly made or anything like that. But I don't think it's like I'm not recommending anyone to go out and watch it.
From the first episode, I felt like it was really trying to be something specific from an older era, and I just don't think like the actor was quite. He didn't quite have the charm to pull it off. I didn't think
he grew on me.
Oh, did he?
By about episode 3 or 4, when they start giving him a reasonably amount more dialogue than they do in the first.
It's the sort of thing where if you just slotted in Arnold or like even Van Damme in his prime into that role, it'd have been like, okay, this would have worked.
Yes. No, I think he gets there over the course of the season.
Okay. I'll accept that Hawk from Titans inevitably got better.
And
so
shitty Aquaman from Smallville, I believe.
Yes, that is also correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. This sounded to me like there's a lot of big like ideas here, but most of it's going to be set in a small town where all these spies go to.
Yeah,
which sounds very doable from a budget perspective.
It sounded to me like Sharp. Obviously, that was like Napoleonic Wars, soldier stuff. But like transplant that into spy, and like the vibe I'm getting from it was really similar.
Okay.
And I'm not opposed to that. Again, I feel like this could be trashy fun, but not like great TV, but fun.
All right.
If it's well made.
Let's move on. MGM Plus, which was Epix before, they're changing their name to MGM Plus. They have announced a slate of original shows.
There's got to be at least one half decent one in there, surely.
A slate. So they've unveiled programming lineup and development slate that includes a bunch of things here. There's a few unscripted things as well, which I think I didn't put down because we don't care about that. I just included the scripted dramas. So let's just work through them. Here we go. The first one is called The Emperor of Ocean Park. This is from John Wells Productions and Warner Brothers Television. The Emperor of Ocean Park is a suspenseful take on Stephen L. Carter's best-selling novel, set in the worlds of DC politics, Ivy League academia, and the beaches of Martha's Vineyard. The series centers on Talcott Garland's quiet life as an Ivy League law professor whose world is shattered when his father, Judge Oliver Garland, dies of an apparent heart attack. The nature of the judge's death is questioned by Tal's sister, Maria, a former journalist and constant conspiracy theorist who believes that the judge, a former failed black nominee to the Supreme Court, met with foul play.
Aren't they?
Yeah. Sherman Payne is the writer, with Damien Marcano attached to direct. This sounds like something that is not for. As soon as I start talking about DC politics and Ivy League, I'm like, you're going to have to like really wow me.
They had a name like Talcott.
You're going to have to wow me with like the quality to get me interested in this. The description's not going to do it for me. So that's that. Next up, we got Hoodlum, which is based on the 1997 MGM film written by Chris Brancato. The drama series is set in the 1930s and follows the true story of Harlem numbers queen Stephanie St. Clair's rise to prominence and mentorship of Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. So this is about some musicians then, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is MGM Plus Studios developing, with Brancato and Monica Macer are co-creating and executive producing. So,
Okay.
cool. It does seem like they're trying to build like an identity here. It feels like they're going for very specific types of like shows.
It does, yeah.
So
You
far,
can't
anyway.
accuse them of CBSing it.
No, it feels like they're trying to build an identity, and they're kind of, even though they're technically an old network, just changing their name. It does feel like they're trying to like build a slate of like
It's a rebrand. They're taking that, in its entirety, not just as a name change.
Yeah. Next up is Earth Abides, which when a plague of unprecedented virulence sweeps the globe, the human race is all but wiped out. In the aftermath, as the great machine of civilization slowly breaks down, only a few shattered survivors remain to struggle against the slide into barbarism.
Barbarism.
Yeah. Or extinction. Based on the novel by George R. Stewart, which is published by Harper Voyager, an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers, blah, blah, blah. MGM Plus Studios is developing with Michael Phillips, Juliana Mao, probably, and Carrie Peake attached as executive producers. So it's a post-apocalyptic show about rebuilding society. Which, to be honest, the fact that it didn't mention like monsters or zombies made it more interesting, I think. Because, okay, it's just about rebuilding society.
There's enough of those, right?
Yeah.
And again, it could still be just generic post-apocalyptic. But, maybe it'll be good.
Yeah. So that's cool. Next up, we have American Classic, which is actually a comedy, but it was in this like slate of shows, so it felt weird to move it out of this. A half-hour comedy about a man desperately trying to save himself, his family, and his hometown the only way he knows how, by putting on a show. Broadway star and notorious narcissist Richard Bean, played by Kevin Kline, suffers a spectacular public meltdown and decides to return home to the family-run theatre. Returning home, that's one of the rules, where he first became aware of his own brilliance. When he arrives, he's shocked to find that his brother and his brother's wife, who also happens to be his former lover, so he used to have sex with his now brother's wife, have turned his temple of art into a dinner theatre, with the emphasis on dinner. Michael Hoffman, Bob Martin, Leslie Erdang, Klein, Anthony Bergman, Miriam Mintz are all attached to executive produce. It's a co-production between MGM Plus Studios and Anonymous Contents AC Studios. So there you go.
Okay.
It
didn't sound particularly interesting to me.
Yeah, it's fair. And then the last scripted show, because I had a couple of reality shows as well, but the last scripted show is called Arc.
Is that with a C or a K?
K. We're back at sci-fi territory because it's 2030. The oceans have risen rapidly, and soon the entire planet will be submerged. But the discovery of another life-sustaining planet light years away gives hope to those who remain alive. Only a few will be able to make the generations-long journey, and those who don't make the cut face a watery death. Based on the books by Stephen Baxter, the series is developed as a co-production between MGM Plus Studios and Anonymous Contents AC Studios. So, yeah.
What I'm hearing is
spaceship,
or hear me out here.
Waterworld.
Stealth Waterworld prequel.
Possibly both. Maybe it'll follow both plots. Maybe it'll be like, here's the people on the ship traveling to a new planet.
I think the really interesting thing would be to follow. Depending on how they do the trips, if they're doing it like people in cryosleep, or are they just doing like generational ships? Like, no, you go on there, you have your kids, and whoever's there at the end gets off.
It says generations long journey, so I assume that means they're going to grow old and have kids, and like it'll be the grandchildren or great grandchildren who eventually arrive.
Assuming we're following people on the journey as opposed to just cutting to where it arrives, I can see it doing interesting things with following people on the ship and then like people who they were friends with, for example, or maybe even family members, but just slightly removed family members.
Yeah, I could also see it showing like the people arriving on the planet and then cutting back to like their like grandparents, like who, assuming that's like the level we're going back to when they left, and like they're on like the start of the journey. You could sort of do like some sort of like parallels between the people who are there now and who were alive at the start of the trip.
This has potential.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could save that as like a your end of season one like sort of like epilogue teaser for season two. Is that we're going to add in this plot to like next season's rotation. If it does follow people on Earth still, it's like the other plot, say, which it may not, but It sounds like it's open to doing that, though, given that it says the people who stay behind might face a watery death. It's like, okay, we'll see Waterworld start, and we'll also see this journey on the ship.
Yeah, and I can see there being like the point maybe end up being that the confined civilization on the ships kind of ends up descending into chaos, as opposed to the chaotic people on Earth. You know, the world's going crazy, but there's still some functioning civilization there.
Yeah, having to like deal with the problem of the world actually brings everyone together, whereas everyone who thinks they're safe on the ship divides into like factions and paranoia because they think it may be taken from them.
Yeah, I can definitely see some stuff. I mean, they might not go that way, but that's one way you could take it. Yeah. There's definitely things they could do for that with that for sure.
And it's based on a book series, so that means there's material to adapt and a roadmap for it. So that's cool. And I don't usually split these up, but just for the sake of my own, seeing where we are in the news, that takes us on to the regular networks and the dramas.
Okay, so home stretch.
Yes. Yeah, not too much left. All right, first up, Fox is developing a 1-hour drama about undercover FBI agents from Joy Blake, the Cell Company and Fox Entertainment Studios. Written and executive produced by Blake, the untitled undercover FBI project.
FBI : undercover.
Hey, if this was CBS, that's what
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. A female FBI agent suffering a bad case of career burnout is sent to train a team of ambitious, determined rookies in what it takes to go deep undercover. So, jaded, cynical person training the young, ambitious, optimistic people.
Shit, Top Gun Maverick.
NBC has ordered a pilot for a drama called Murder by the Book. From Good Girls creator Jenna Bans under her Universal Television-based production banner, Minnesota Logging Company. Yeah. So the story will follow big city Insta-famous book reviewer.
I'm out. You lost me.
It takes a page from...
and besides, everyone now knows that now it's all about book talk.
It takes a page from murder mystery book she reviews and becomes an unlikely detective to uncover the shocking truths about an eccentric seaside town. So it's book reviewer becomes detective because she's read a lot of murder mysteries.
Nah, if only it were like that.
So we've got that.
Where was that?
NBC.
Of course it was.
And then we're on to the last story of the news.
Oh, please don't be CBS.
It's NBC.
Oh.
They've ordered a pilot for Wolf, a 1-hour medical drama from writer-producer Michael Grassi, producer-director Lee Tolan Krieger, and executive producer Greg Berlanti. Is that name?
You could have given me 100 guesses on that title and I wouldn't have got medical drama.
No, I know. Maybe I should have.
Is that Wolf with 1 O or 2?
1.
Okay. Because sometimes when it's a name like that, it's 2.
Mm-hmm. Wolf is inspired by the books The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and another book called An Anthropologist on Mars, both by Oliver Sacks.
They sound way more interesting than Wolf.
I know. It follows a revolutionarily larger-than-life neurologist and his team of interns as they explore the last great frontier, the human mind, while also grappling with their own relationships and mental health.
One last. Yeah, had to do it, NBC. I'm really glad I picked something nice to drink tonight and didn't just go for the swill. Because, 1 or 2 swigs of the swill is fine, but...
Yes, so there you go. It was a booze-heavy
and just in case anyone was interested, it was the Dewar's 8-year rum cask finish that I've been swigging on.
Oh, very good.
And also drinking a cider the whole time as well.
Aye. So, this, if you vaguely remember that description, it's because it was in the works at Fox like 3 years ago. And there's now
I do not vaguely remember it because it was so generic.
Yeah. I think part of me does like. I think I remember the last Great Frontier part of it. That like I think that seems vaguely familiar to me.
Maybe.
But I mean, maybe I'm just imagining that. I don't know. But hey, there you go. That's the news. First one of the year, everyone. So barring delays, we'll try to be back on a regular schedule, but not one this weekend though, because we're recording this on Wednesday. So unless a lot of great stuff happens on Thursday and Friday, there won't be enough to do anyway. So,
yeah. And I didn't watch the Mandalorian trailer yet. I don't think I'm gonna. I know you don't care, but it dropped
You're
this
right,
week
I don't.
for people who are interested. The season 3 trailer. Wait, there was a release date for that. There was a release date for that, like just the other day. Screw you. I'm finding this news. I'm sure there was.
What? This isn't bring your own news. Piss off.
You should have done it in March 1st. That's big news. It would have been in the release date section. Would have been big news in that. If I'd remembered an hour ago.
Big news in the release date section. As far as reviews goes, there was a few pilots. Not this week, but the previous week. Obviously, The Last of Us started. I've reviewed that, both episodes 1 and 2. So I'm sticking with that show, obviously, because it's very good.
Shocking.
And
Yeah, pretty good.
I like the game, so yeah, very attached to it. Also, the same week I did. What were those 2 other shows I did? One was Mayfair Witches, starring Alexander Daddario, which was just a very AMC show. I do not recommend.
Alexandra Daddario, so I would recommend.
I mean, she's not like, she can't really carry a show on her own. So like, she's, I know why you're happy to see her, but like,
who isn't happy to see her? You apparently, but you're boring.
I'm just, and then there was something else that I can't remember.
There was, and you're going to be a lot more annoyed when I tell you what it is, because it's the better show, I assume.
Oh, it's the Refn show, right?
It is the Refn show.
Yeah, which
Copenhagen Cowboy.
Which I'm still meaning to get back to because the first episode was fantastic, but
I haven't watched it yet. Honestly, I had a long week at work, and every time it took me almost all week just to get to the first episode of Last of Us because it was an hour and 20 minutes long, right? I was like, I need to fit this in, and I want to watch it on the big TV.
Mm-hmm.
I just, but by the time Paige leaves for work at 4:30, I'm like, I don't have the energy for an hour and a half at this point. And I'm assuming Copenhagen Cowboy, the episodes are like that because Refn.
No, I think it was only about an hour. It was maybe a full hour.
Okay, that's not so bad.
And I think that might be the longest one of the whole 6, to be honest. But I know Last of Us is all over the place because episode 3 is like 75 minutes, and then
2 was like 50 odd.
Most of them are 50 something. Like most of them are about that, but 3 is a bit long again. So
I can respect HBO for allowing that because
yeah.
I mean, even I know they've been doing it in the last couple of years with things like Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, whatever. But it wasn't that long ago that even HBO had hit roughly this runtime. Like,
yeah, they were still pretty strict with like time slots, whereas it does feel like over the last like 3 or 4 years they've kind of like, you know what, it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
and it's not just them. Like we saw it a lot with AMC over the last season of Better Call Saul.
Because ABC, HBO, like, they'll just be playing a movie afterwards anyway, so like, let's just start the movie whenever. Like,
yeah.
Who gives a shit?
I'm very open to more networks and cable channels being more flexible with this. Just being like, hey, it is what it is. Yeah, I think we shit on Netflix a lot, rightly so, most of the time. But I don't think they deserve credit for kind of establishing that flexible runtime. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people took the piss with it and kind of just used it as an excuse to go crazy long.
I do think there's a danger of too many people just like using extra time for no reason and the episodes feeling
not
banded.
Not actually editing like a good network show does. But I appreciate that we're moving into a point now where there is some flexibility where, hey, if we need it and this is what the episode calls for, we're willing to. We'll give you a 70-minute episode in the middle of the season, because it used to be okay. Your first and last episode, you might be able to get away with it, but randomly in episode 3, you'd never have got away with that a few years ago.
No, that's true. So, and actually on Last of Us, because the reviewers, in a very weird case, which was obviously a show of confidence, got the entire season to review before it premiered.
Usually it's just like the first half. At most.
So obviously they were feeling confident and got reviewed very well as a result. Most of them said the first episode was the weakest, which is great because the first episode was really good.
That was not a bad episode.
No. But there was a lot of those early reviews were saying episode 3 was special. So that's the next one, obviously. So I'm excited for episode 3.
I'm trying to think in terms of the game what episode 3 will be. Oh, okay.
Bill's
I
Time.
got it.
It's
Yeah,
Bill's
yeah,
Time.
yeah, yeah. I was like, I just got there. I was like, okay, I know what it'll be.
Yeah. So, expecting big things from that this coming week. There is a new pilot as well, which was high enough in the pilot vote on Patreon that I'll be doing the first episode of. I don't expect to like it. It's a show called Wolfpack. It is notable that Sarah Michelle Gellar's in it. Of course, the star of hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But
there's literally the only reason I know what that show is because I'm assuming they've been doing the press rounds this week.
Yeah.
And there's been like headlines of, Sarah Michelle Gellar doesn't consider herself an icon in the supernatural TV sphere or whatever, whatever the specific quote was.
Even though it's the main thing she's known for, but
yeah, like she doesn't consider herself an icon in that. I'm like, okay, sure. And I'm like, why is this a thing right now? And then I saw interview for this show. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird headlines where they're like shoehorning Buffy into the headline, which I know it seems like a weird complaint coming from me, but I saw one that was like, what Sarah Michelle Gellar thinks Buffy fans should know before they watch Wolfpack, and I'm like, that's such a weird way to phrase your article.
That is called SEO manipulation.
Yeah, but I just whatever. I'm just there's a point where it doesn't feel like an article written by a human being, and it's just an AI bot that's
and given the news the last couple of weeks about that one specific AI bot, chat something.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if some of them are. I don't know if you've seen much about this, but there was one where it was like a website that does just random articles of things, and to see what their hiring process was like, they put anonymously, there was like a blind test, put that AI in the candidates to for selection, and it got through to the interview stage. It was like in the top 10% of candidates. It's like, that is very concerning, given that it's still, relatively speaking, in its infancy as a technology. If you're a freelance writer, I'd be concerned.
Well, that's something
especially if you're doing news things.
Yeah, we're already seeing this backlash from the art community because of AI produced art, which is not only is it a problem because it's like a way to get art without an artist, but it's also like copying styles from other artists and stuff like that.
It is, and it's being used in mainstream publishing. You won't have heard of it. It's a book. I don't know. It's Christopher Paolini. It's his new book. He's the guy who wrote Eragon and those series, which you have heard of, I assume.
I've heard of the terrible movie.
It's the dragon movie, the terrible dragon movie, and it was a terrible dragon movie, and they're not good books either, for that record. But his new book, it's the second in a series. It turned out the art for the cover was from an AI generated thing, and the publisher was like, "Oh, we didn't realize it was just submitted, and oh well, we're using it anyway."
I think what you'll see is that there'll be a value placed on real art created by real humans as far as collectors and actual buying art goes, but stuff like that where it's like a bit of art for a bit of a page on something is like, that can just be AI generated. Who gives a shit?
Very possibly, yeah. But like I said, I think opinion pieces and stuff like that will obviously have to place, because they're an opinion, that there's someone's take on something. But the articles that are just news regurgitation without any...
It's why it's important that we crack jokes and stuff, because if a bot could probably figure out all the analysis that I can make when I'm reviewing something.
Exactly. It's not just about the analysis. It's not just about regurgitating, oh, this is the news that we've just recycled to you from probably Deadline, which, like the Deadline writers, they should be concerned because they're not adding any real value to the news. They are reporting the news, which is their job. I want to point out, I'm not saying they're doing a bad job of that. That's what their house style is.
But that job could be irrelevant if a robot can just do it instead.
And very soon. Like sooner than we probably thought.
Instead of hiring a team of writers, you have one or two people who just monitor all the robots to make sure they're all working properly.
You just kind of proofread and check that it is what it is. Yeah.
Wild stuff ahead.
We are living in the future.
It's not a great future, I have to say.
It's not, no.
But hey, all right, well, Connor had to bring that dystopian topic into everything.
Hey, look, it was relevant. It was recent topics, and it was interesting.
Whatever you say. That has been the Almost Cancelled podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you found out about some interesting TV news items along the way. Let us know what you thought of any of the stories we brought up in the comments. Like, subscribe. Of course, you can support all the content by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us over there for any amount per month. And yeah, just, thanks for watching or listening. But yeah, we'll see you soon, guys. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?